This video is for anyone who is currently feeling stuck. The way to get unstuck is to ask yourself better questions. But then, how do I ask better questions, you might say? Well, I have the 12 questions that could completely change the shape of your life if you make a habit of asking them. Asking better questions is gonna be one of the big keys to get unstuck, make progress, and move forward. The number one question you have to ask yourself is, what do I want? What are my goals? Or if you're in a conversation with someone else, what do you want? In a positive way. Asking yourself what I want will help you find the right answer that will lead you in a positive way. Or what are my goals? Reminding you of what you're trying to achieve, which can then help you make a better decision than asking yourself something negative where you don't know where you're going. What assumptions am I making? So often, as people, we tell ourselves stories. We're always telling ourselves stories about ourselves, about others. We're making up what they're feeling, what they're thinking about us, whatever it is. And we make up these crazy assumptions, which oftentimes aren't true, right? Aren't true. So you got to ask yourself in certain situations, especially if we're maybe frustrated or judgmental, what assumptions am I making? Is what you are thinking, these answers that you're coming up with, are they based on fact or something you know, or are they based on some story that you're just making up in your mind and running with? Number 3, what am I responsible for? Big key. If you're running away from responsibility in life, it's going to be hard to achieve your goals. It's going to be hard to grow and get the results you want. So what am I responsible for in this situation is a great question to ask yourself. We are not responsible for other people's thoughts or actions in different situations. We are, however, responsible for our own. There's a lot more that we are responsible for that a lot of the times that we would like to admit. So don't go into the land of blame and excuses. Stay away from that by just stepping back and saying, hey, what am I responsible for here? And taking action in line with that. Number 4, how else can I think about this? We're so set in our thinking and our habits of thoughts for how we think of certain situations, or we're set off, or certain emotions come out because we're just so complex as people. But it's like to just step back and be like, how else can I think about this? Maybe there's a different way to come at this. Maybe there's a different way to achieve this. Maybe I can think of this in a fresh way, and that'll help you come up with some answers rather than just deep diving back into what you're used to and what feels normal for you. Number 5, what is the other person thinking, feeling, or wanting out of this conversation? So often we're so focused on ourselves and conversation and relationships, even just wanting to talk, and not listen, which is another topic for a different video. But, just being aware, what is the other person thinking? How am I making people feel in this situation? My words, my nonverbal communication, how is this making people around me feel? That could help you have a lot more success in your relationships. Just stop and ask yourself that question. Number 6, what am I missing or avoiding? A lot of times we don't get the results we're looking for because we are avoiding doing what we actually need to be doing in that situation. So to think about it a little bit, ask yourself this question, what am I avoiding? What hard thing am I trying to skirt around? What shortcut am I trying to take? Just answering that question can help you then change your behavior and start taking the right action. Number 7, what can I learn? What can I learn from this success or failure? What can I learn from this mistake? What can I learn from this situation? Always focusing on what we can learn from the challenges that we're currently facing, perhaps. Focusing on getting some lessons, gaining some knowledge that we can then leverage and apply to our life is going to be a massive key. When you're always looking to learn, it's almost inevitable that you do. Number 8, how can I turn this experience into a win-win? If your life is about you winning at the expense of others, it's going to be challenging to succeed at a high level and reach your potential. How do I create wins for myself? But in doing so, I'm also creating wins for others around me. Win-win is going to take you where you want to go. Number 9, what's possible? What a great question. So often we get so comfortable with having the ceiling placed upon ourselves of just what we naturally feel is comfortable for what we're capable of and what the limits are, what that ceiling is. We set the ceiling ourselves, right? So just think of the power of doing this to ourselves all the time, possibly without even knowing it, and stepping back and being like, man, what's possible in this situation? how fit can I be? How strong can I be? How successful can I be? You know, how much money can I make? How much of a difference can I make? Whatever it is that excites you, you know, what's that ceiling and what's actually possible for you? Decide that a little more is possible than you currently are. Number 10, what are my choices? Every situation will have different choices that we can make. We are continually making decisions, whether we know it or not, oftentimes just on autopilot. So then to step back and be like, hey, what are my choices here? You know, I'm not being forced into anything. I'm responsible for the choices that I make each day. You know, in this situation, what choices do I have? And now I can possibly make a more informed choice rather than just acting out of habit or whatever I would normally do. Number 11. What action steps make the most sense? Just like what action step? What makes the most sense for me right now to put my time into, to put my energy into, to put my money into? What action steps make the most sense for me to achieve what I say I want to achieve? If we don't think about what makes sense, then we're limiting ourselves and possibly opportunity that we could create to move forward. And number 12, what other questions could I ask myself or others? So obviously quite open-ended here, but just thinking there's always questions that we can be asking ourselves. And really the whole process of thought, which we're doing all throughout the day, it comes down to asking and answering questions. That really is what thought is when you break it down. Ask a question, answer it. Ask a question, answer it. So what questions are you asking yourself on the day-to-day? Do you have some negative questions like what's wrong with me, or you know, why me, or that sort of thing? I'm telling you, you're possibly doing a lot more damage than you would if you would just be able to flip your questions into something more positive, more uplifting, that opens up your mind a little bit and opens up your thoughts for what's possible. So if you enjoyed this video, I recommend a great book on it. It's called Change Your Questions, Change Your Life. And I happen to agree with her.